we're going to go ahead and make both of our parts today. We are going to make our 2x3 rectangle for the wood engraving and carving. And we're also going to make the 2-inch circle for the acrylic engraving and carving. Now we're going to make both of these in Inkscape, and through that program we'll be able to send it to the Glowforge or the Epilogue Zing in these rooms. This will also work for the Helix model we have at the high school, or the Fusion 24 we also have in the middle school makerspace. So without further ado, let's go ahead and open up Inkscape. So I'm going to hit my Windows key, type in Inkscape. And while that's loading, we're going to go ahead and just kind of look at this. So we have our document here. Now, our goal is to have this match the bed size of both our lasers. Now, it just happens that the lasers here in Success are both 24 by 12. So we're going to go ahead and set up our page to match that. So just like a piece of paper that you print on Word, while we, wherever you put your text on the Word document is how it's going to be printed out on the printer. The laser works exactly the same way. So in order to get that, we want to make sure that our paper is the same size as our laser bed. So we're going to go to File. We're going to go to Document Properties. And we want to make sure that we're in inches, because this is America. And then we're going to go ahead and go to 24. So width is 24. That's how big the width of the Glowforge and the Zing both are in this case. If we were using the Helix, it would be 24 by 18. If we were using the 24 Fusion at the middle school, it would be 24 by 24. So I also want to make sure that my, let's see, where is it? Okay, just make sure that's all set. We hit X, and now we go ahead and do that. So now I'm zooming in by hitting Control. If I want to see if I want to scroll up and scroll down, I can move that. If I hold Shift, I can go left and right. So this zooms, holding Control while scrolling with the mouse. Normally is up and down, Shift is left and right. Okay, step one. We're going to click this rectangle, and now we want to make sure that it is actually 2 by 3. So we're going to go ahead and go to inches, and we're going to type in here. We want 3 inches by 2. Okay, and now we have a 2 by 3 square. Let's say I went ahead and did a 2 by 3 in the wrong orientation. Well, not to worry. Click on my pointer here. I'm just going to go ahead and rotate this sucker here. A 2 by 3 in the right orientation. It doesn't really matter as long as you know what is going on. Now, wherever I put this is where it's going to print on my bed. So it's important to know where your material is on your bed, but we'll come to that once we get to the laser portion. For now, we're just designing. If we were to print this off right now, everything that's black will engrave. So we want to make sure that that doesn't happen. We want to just engrave where we want our name. So we're going to go ahead and go to our fill. In case this is gone, we're going to go ahead and go to Object. And we're going to go to Fill and Stroke, and that will pop it up here. Just in case it's not there, we go to Object, Fill and Stroke, and it's right here. Now we want our fill to be non-existent. We want our stroke to be black. And we want our stroke to be also in inches. And I like to have it at 0.3 so it can recognize the vector. At 0.3, you can still see it. But if I did 0.1, which is also how it vectors, I can still see it. Usually it kind of disappears. So if you can't see it and you're at 0.1, go ahead and select it and just select 0.003, that's 0.003 of an inch. And it will still do all the vectoring and cutting that we want it to. Next step is we have to add our text. I'm going to go ahead and select the text addition here. I'm just going to slide it over. I'm going to say Mr. Ebersol. Well, I'm in caps lock. That's no good. Mr. Ebersol. Okay, now at the moment, this is all stroke and no fill. I want the opposite. Right now, it will cut out those layers. So if I put this in my rectangle, it will cut out the rectangle because it thinks that line is what's called a vector. Vectors cut and rasters engrave. So we want to make sure that our name, our text is a raster or a filled object. And we want to make sure that our is a vector, which is why we have it set at 0.003, so it sees it as a cut line. So Right now we don't want these to be cut, so I'm going to go ahead and say that I don't want a stroke, so it disappears. And that's it, maybe. Fill. I'm going to go ahead and fill it, and now it sees it as a vector. So also at the point, I want to make sure these are aligned. So I'm going to go ahead and select everything. I'm going to go to Object. I'm going to go Align and Duplicate. And there's this nifty little thing here. It's going to align them, and boom, now I have a perfect. Also want to make sure this is set up to be 0, 0. So this is my home for my laser. That's always 0, 0. So right now it's in the top left corner. If I wanted this to be 2 inches in X, no, I'm still in millimeters, aren't I? Okay. So I go over to 2 inches, and I go ahead and move it to 2. If I wanted to be 3 inches down, let's say there's some things cut out in this area, I can move this down to 5 inches, maybe. Yeah, there. And now you can see where we are. So I'm going to move this back up to 0 and Y, X, and I'm just going to, I like to do that so it gives me a little bit of coverage. So I just went ahead and hit both of these arrow keys on my keyboard, so we can kind of have it a little bit uh, off the edge of the material since the material is not square. So here we go. We're ready for that one. And I'm going to go ahead and make the circle now. So here, click my circle tool. Now obviously it's not quite a circle, so we're going to go inches. We want this to be, that's points, we want this to be 2 inches, so 2. And now we have a 2-inch circle. That seems wrong. Now we're going to go ahead and say our width is 2 inches. And there we go. Same problem we had before. We're going to go back to our stroke and fill. This is our alignment tab. Since we used it, it's going to stay open until we hit that little X and closes it. So again, we want no fill, but we do want stroke. So I'm going to turn stroke back on. Stroke over here, we're going to go ahead and go to 3. There. It's going to move this up a little bit. And then also want to, I'm just going to copy and paste this. And I want to change that to say Dr. Nash. Okay. Now, we also need to understand what we're cutting with. So let's select both of these, maybe. Like both of those. And we're going to go to alignment, just quick align. We also have to understand what we're cutting. So the rectangle is going to be cut out of wood, just because that's what we decided, and the circle is going to be cut out of acrylic. Now, when you cut clear acrylic, it is always best to do it on the mirrored side. So we're just going to go ahead and mirror this. Go ahead and say, boom. So now it's going to print backwards, but when you look at the part, the name is going to be perfect, and it's also going to be flush on the top because we're printing it backwards. If you were printing this on non-clear acrylic or opaque acrylic, like colored acrylic, you wouldn't do this step. You would just leave it non-mirrored, which is this button here. But it is always best practice to mirror your acrylic cuts. So now all we have to do is send it to the laser. So I'm going to hit Control P. We're going to send this to the Zing. So I'm going to select my epilogue engraver, print. And I'm not in the makerspace. I'm in Nash's room. And here you can see, all right, so now I went ahead and also told us, hey, I recognize that you want this to be a vector cut, and I recognize that you want this to be engraved. Now notice that we have both here. So if we didn't want both, we would have to ungroup items. And let's say we just want to do the wood one first. So I'm going to delete that. I'm going to delete that. And now I'm only cutting this. Just like a normal Word document, imagine I'm sending it to the printer. Where it is on my Inkscape is where it's going to print. Now I can also go ahead and move this around if I wanted to. 0. Okay. And I'm also going to just move it off. Also just going to move it off center, or off the edge just a little bit to give me some moves. And then here I can just go in. So we're going to cut wood. So I would like to do it pops those settings for me. And then to do the cut, I'm also cutting wood, and this happens to be 1/8" wood. So it went ahead and popped all of those settings for me for this particular printer. And I would just hit print, and it would send it to the printer. Now, for the Glowforge, it's a little bit different. So let's go ahead and open up the Glowforge. So here's I went to my app for Glowforge. Now you're going to take it over there to the computer that we have and bring over your USB and upload this. But I'm just going to pretend that you're all your USB. So I'm going to go to My Designs. I'm going to create a new design. Okay. Nice thing about the Glowforge is it has a camera, so you can actually go ahead and set it up exactly where you want. So this is where I talked about, well, some things have been cut, some things aren't. So I have to figure out what. So I'm going to go ahead and upload this, and I need to. Oh, I didn't save it. So I need to save this. So File, Save As, and I'll just go ahead and save it to the downloads. We'll call it Session B. Can't save the PC. Choose another location. Well, that's fun. There. Okay, so it's there. We'll go back to here. Upload. Now this would just be off of your USB drive. I just did it to my computer, so it's going to go ahead and upload. And boom. Now it didn't like my text. It didn't like the text because it doesn't know the font that I use. So that's the issue. So I'm going to go ahead and delete this because I'm cutting wood. And I'm just going to go ahead and add my own font here. Okay. So I'm going to say Mr. Ebersol. Okay. Boom. There. And this is nice because it auto aligns for you, so you can see those magic things. Now, you're also going to notice this is, I'm going to go ahead and select the material, just here, material, select. And it's going to go ahead and say, I want to engrave that. Now, if I wanted to cut it, I could say cut, and it would go ahead and cut it, but I actually do want to engrave it. So there's that. Now, notice that there's really no good place to put this. So I'm going to see if I can rotate it and find the spot. Nope. This particular setting, there is no place to set this up that would give me a full cut because that is in the way. So I have to get a new piece of wood. So I would just go over, open the lid, put a new piece of wood in, and get selected the material, and went ahead and added all of the settings uh, ready, depending on what I was doing. So if I selected, let's say, blue acrylic, it would go ahead and fix those settings for me. But I do want wood, and then I would just simply hit print. And then I would have to go over and hit the blue button that would set this up. So if I cut this, it doesn't know there's anything missing, so it would actually cut this out, and then I would have a little bit of a hole or a fillet right here where this just doesn't exist. So just be aware, it will do the cut, it just won't work there. If you wanted to design specifically in here, you can. There are shapes, just like we did in Inkscape, but I just wanted you guys to understand that Inkscape can go to both the Glowforge and to the Zing pretty flawlessly. The text is an issue, so if you ever want to go into the text, you can do that. So we can go to, let's see, where is it? Text, and find, convert to text. Selected it. Text and font. So Control Shift T would also open it up. Control Shift T, just as well. So use this to create your first wood carving, a 2x3 wood carving, and a 2-inch circle acrylic carving. It can be clear acrylic, it can be opaque acrylic, it can be blue, orange, green, whatever we happen to have in stock. All right, enjoy.